Did you know that due to global warming, a large number of volcanoes in Antarctica could become more active, leading to the potential extinction of all life on the planet? Have you heard that beneath miles of ice on this continent, there's a lake with living organisms not yet explored by humans? Today, you'll learn interesting and terrifying facts about the least explored continent on Earth. And at the end of the video, you'll find out where the real Blood Falls is located. Enjoy watching Antarctica's volcanoes. To many, Antarctica may seem like a lifeless place. Indeed, the average annual temperature on this continent is minus 70 degrees Fahrenheit. It seems that in such cold temperatures, it's not just advisable to wear thermal underwear. Spending more than a couple of minutes there is contraindicated, but what if I told you that even in such a cold place, natural areas exist where the temperature is around plus 77 degrees Fahrenheit year-round? You'll be shocked, but it's true. As it turns out, Antarctica is home to one of the largest volcanic regions on the planet, with more than 100 volcanoes. Many of them are quite active. Take, for example, Erebus, a sufficiently tall mountain protruding above the ice sheet. English sailors first discovered this volcano in 1841, naming it after the ship that participated in the expedition. The ship itself was named after the ancient Greek god Erebus. When I called the volcano a mountain, I wasn't mistaken. It rises above sea level by a whopping 12,500 feet. Its diameter reaches 43 miles. In ancient times, the lava eruption site had a diameter of 7 miles. Now, the dimensions of the active crater are much smaller, only 2,600 feet. But the most interesting part is that it has had a lava lake for several decades. This is a very rare occurrence, as such volcanoes on Earth are few. However, Erebus is not entirely safe. There have been cases where its activity sharply increased, leading to real explosions. The last such event occurred in 2015. The most powerful recorded explosion happened in 1972 when huge volcanic bombs scattered within almost a mile radius. This occurs because the volcano's activity increases and the level of lava also rises. Due to the low temperature, the upper layers of hot masses solidify, forming a plug that traps gases. Over time, hydrogen and methane accumulate and explode, causing chunks of dense magma to scatter. Genuine chimneys are formed near Erebus. When I saw photos of these formations, I thought that aliens were hiding beneath the layers of ice and snow. But in reality, these are fumaroles, cracks in the volcano through which hot gases and steam escape. Over time, ice forms around them, creating these marvelous chimneys. And what I'll tell you next will simply shock you. Just imagine, due to Erebus's activity, caves around it began to thaw, and they are simply stunning. The temperature inside them reaches plus 77 degrees Fahrenheit, a real resort in the middle of eternal frost. Many of them host microorganisms, moss, algae, and sunlight can penetrate through cracks in the ice. Deception Volcano. But even more interesting seems to be Deception Volcano. You'll be seriously surprised when you learn about its size and power. Discovered in 1820, its exploration began, and scientists were amazed by their findings. The diameter of the caldera, slope surrounding the volcano's crater, was 3 miles. And this is despite the fact that the volcano itself is under about 300 feet of ice. This means that in ancient times, there was such a powerful explosion from the eruption of this volcano that it broke through this icy shield, scattering millions of tons of molten rock around. It's frightening to imagine the magnitude of the catastrophe if the formed crater became an internal harbor for the island. What personally astonishes me the most is the following fact. Just think about it. Almost half of the entire territory of Deception Island is not covered by glaciers, all thanks to the fact that geothermal waters effectively heat the island. Because of this, on the surface, you can find not only simple microorganisms but also moss, flowering plants, and even animals such as flies, seagulls, and large marine mammals. And now, imagine that somewhere in Antarctica, far from civilization, you can immerse yourself in hot geothermal water, which, by the way, is also very beneficial for health. This fact truly captivates me. Inside the harbor, the temperature is always positive due to the volcano's activity. So many tourists can literally bathe in these hot springs. Global warming in Antarctica. Surely you've heard that our planet has certain problems. For example, ozone holes. Do you know how they form and where the largest one is located? Listen carefully, as what I found for you might shock you. The ozone layer protects our planet from harmful ultraviolet radiation. Without it, most living organisms on Earth would perish. But did you know that this layer is most strongly destroyed due to volcanic activity? As Antarctica is home to a huge number of constantly erupting volcanoes, a real ozone hole has formed there. Unfortunately, it may expand, engulfing the entire planet. How can we solve this problem? In general, the planet is gradually repairing this hole on its own. However, this happens due to global warming. Increased air temperature allows the ozone layer to recover, but there's a huge catch. Most of Antarctica's volcanoes are hidden beneath a massive layer of ice. As the planet's temperature rises, the ice begins to melt, making the volcanoes more active, emitting even more ash and gas into the atmosphere. It turns into a real cyclic reaction. Air temperature rises, ice melts, volcanoes become more active, causing more ice to melt. Now, imagine what would happen if they all started erupting simultaneously. It would be a real catastrophe and the end of the world. Billions of tons of ash would be thrown into the sky. The icy shield would be destroyed. All the melted water would enter the ocean, and its level would rise by tens of feet. Numerous cities would be flooded, and the ash in the sky would lead to a new ice age, as it would simply block the sun. Meanwhile, the ozone layer would be destroyed, holes would appear all over the planet, and a huge amount of solar radiation and harmful ultraviolet rays would reach every living creature on Earth. The world would literally be destroyed if this happens. Well, okay, I may have gone too far. There's no need to be so scared and rush to sell your car to stop global warming. For such a scenario to occur, a real miracle must happen. In reality, all of this will happen gradually, so humanity is relatively safe in the next few centuries. Label 4, Loch Ness Monster. Now, I'd like to tell you about a very interesting discovery and the theory associated with it. Not far from Antarctica, on Seymour Island, the remains of the Loch Ness Monster were discovered. Although it might not be Nessie from Loch Ness, located in the Scottish Highlands, but rather a relative. Scientists determined that the age of these remains is millions of years. They were discovered quite recently, in 1989. However, due to their enormous size and their location in solid rock, extracting them was very difficult. It took 3 expeditions to accomplish this task. As a result, scientists managed to collect hundreds of kilograms of bones. And, as it turned out, this individual died 30,000 years before the mass extinction of dinosaurs. There is a theory that Loch Ness is connected by underwater caves to the world's ocean, allowing the ancient creature to easily migrate to Antarctica, where they could have inhabited earlier. Perhaps due to unfavorable living conditions, these animals decided to move to warmer waters near Europe. People cannot definitively refute this fact, as the world ocean is still largely unexplored. Maybe ancient dinosaurs did not become extinct, at least those that lived in water. The remains discovered in Antarctica may be just a lone, unfortunate old individual. So, who knows? Maybe the Loch Ness Monster really exists. What do you think? Write about it in the comments. Right. Lake Vostok and living creatures under the ice. Next, I would like to tell you about the amazing lake in Antarctica, proudly named Vostok. Not so long ago, in 1957, Soviet scientists established a polar base. They named it Vostok, and it turned out that the place where it was located was right above an ancient lake. However, it was hidden under 2.5 miles of ice. When scientists discovered this fact, they speculated that the water in the lake might not freeze due to thermal springs. And they decided to test this theory. Preliminary data indicated that the lake was about 1/2 mile deep, comparable in size to Lake Ladoga. Just imagine, a huge reservoir of fresh water somewhere under the ice. What could be found there? So, to confirm the theory and find out what is in the waters of such a strange and ancient reservoir, drilling began at the Vostok base in 1996. Only after 16 years, in 2012, the drill finally reached the surface of the lake. scientists immediately took water samples to study its composition and the presence of living organisms. This task was not easy, as it required separating colonies of microorganisms introduced by humans from ancient representatives of living nature. And it took another 3 years to accomplish this. You'll be amazed, but in a small water sample, they found 2 entirely new bacteria. One of them had never been encountered before, and the other had already been found in Greenland. But I was shocked when I learned the next fact. In addition to bacteria, they found a previously unknown bacillus. And this is already a complete microorganism. Why am I so astonished? Just listen carefully. The pressure at the sampling point reached 400 atmospheres. The water temperature was close to freezing. No light, no organic carbon, a huge amount of oxygen, which in such concentrations is pure poison, and millions of years of isolation from the outside world. How could this bacillus still be alive? Maybe the Loch Ness monster does exist, and it simply hides in this lake. We won't know the answers to these questions anytime soon. Atlantis and Antarctica. Among other things, I found another very interesting theory specifically for you. It suggests that Antarctica is actually an ancient sunken continent called Atlantis. Indeed, even the names are very similar. But how did this theory come about? Let me tell you now. Scientists have long found evidence that ancient people knew about Antarctica, much earlier than its official discovery. Cave dwellers also drew maps, and many of them depicted a continent that closely resembled Antarctica without its icy cap. How is this even possible? Hence, the theory emerged that Atlantis is the same as Antarctica. Sounds very intriguing, doesn't it? Unfortunately, confirming this theory is impossible. The issue is that all mentions of Atlantis indicate that it was located in the Atlantic Ocean. Moreover, there is no evidence that ancient people ever visited Antarctica. Although, on the other hand, it could be a reality. As you may know, continents sort of drift over time due to the shifting of tectonic plates. So, over millennia, Antarctica might have simply moved out of the Atlantic Ocean zone. I haven't found reliable confirmation or refutation of this theory, so I can't answer you with certainty. All we can do is hope that someday humanity will be able to prove all these theories. Blood falls. Antarctica is generally a very mysterious place. Just imagine there's an entire blood waterfall. Personally, I was shocked by the footage I saw while researching all this information for you. This place was first discovered in 1911. Back then, scientists were frightened to see rivers of blood-red color and even a whole waterfall. They speculated that this color was caused by the life activities of red algae. However, this opinion was quickly debunked. In reality, blood falls emerged due to slowly seeping iron-rich, salty water. There is so much iron in this water that it literally rusts when exposed to open air. Yes, so strongly that it turns red. The water itself is so salty that if it gets into a person's eyes, it can cause blindness. But how could such a phenomenon arise? Scientists have already fully proven this fact. Thousands of years ago, the Taylor Glacier, where Blood Falls is located, covered a salty lake. Over time, the water in the lake became so salty that it stopped freezing at normal temperatures. Iron entered it from the underlying rock rich in this metal. Over many years, the water became very salty and iron-rich. Eventually, it found its way out of this icy prison. As scientists know, when water cools, it releases heat. Because of this, blood falls, over time, under tremendous pressure, created a network of cracks in the massive icy cap. That's how the water found its way out, creating such a terrifying effect. Personally, I really like how blood falls looks. What do you think about this interesting phenomenon? In this video, I told you about the most interesting and mysterious discoveries in Antarctica. Thanks for watching.